This is the Broomfield Veterans Memorial Museum, and it was established to perpetuate and educate adults, school children, and anyone else that's interested in all of the men and women veterans that have served their country. And to me, this museum is to honor all veterans, those in past wars and those that are fighting for us right now. But I think it's more for generations to come so that they will know what's taken place and the sacrifices that men and women have made to keep this country free.
Most of our founding fathers in Broomfield were veterans, and most of the heads of families were veterans. There were so many stories that we'd tell each other, but were not being left for posterity. We originally opened the museum in 2003 in this 500 and some square feet space. A year ago, 2008, we were informed that we would be getting this whole building, a 12-garden center.
Hi, how are you? We had a great reopening on Veterans Day, November 11th. In the morning, we had the Veterans Day ceremony over at the high school, and probably had approximately 400 people there at the high school. In the afternoon, starting at noon, we had the reopening of the museum. But I think we probably had somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 to 325 people attend the grand opening. All in all, I think it was a tremendous success. The museum is open Saturdays from 11 to 5, and we also offer private tours.
Well, the Broomfield Veterans Memorial Museum was established to honor all men and women who served in our military, both in war and peace, and to help perpetuate the history of our military and what it has contributed to the history of our country. We had quite a collection of memorabilia that had been donated, but very little of it had been organized in a manner that we could figure out how best to display it. We basically put together teams who helped kind of focus on each individual room, and then each individual display case in many cases is focused on the story of a particular veteran. So as you go through, you can actually see a connection with an actual person. You're just not looking at stuff.
The room that we're in now is actually the beginning of the tour. This is what I refer to as the World War II Europe room. As you can see to my left here are the different uniforms representing all branches of the service. We even have a Coast Guard ladies uniform there. The case to my right is one of what I refer to as kind of one of the important displays, because it's actually from an ex-Navy corpsman. And a corpsman is so important, as any veteran knows, but all the different material that the corpsman carries is in the display. Some of the other displays I think is very, very interesting is this display here is actually a donation by Hosteller. It's actually a drawing of the prisoner of war camp, meaning a German prisoner of war camp, Stalag 7, and on a handkerchief is the drawing of the complete camp. And I guess it's kind of hard for me to imagine how any POW could actually draw on a handkerchief the way the prison camp was designed. This room, I think, is probably the most important room in the museum, meaning the library. This is where the history of all wars we have documented, and we have all types of reading material covering all the different wars. So if any student wants to learn about the wars, everything they need to know is right here. The next room is what we refer to as the South Pacific. The first display here is regarding the USS Indianapolis. Local resident Paul Murphy was aboard the USS Indy, and Paul is one of 317 survivors. What we try to do in this room here specifically is show everything that happened in the South Pacific and what led up to the surrender of the Japanese. A lot of the veterans always complain about rations that we eat, but if you can see here, we have actually a ration container that was taken from a Japanese soldier on Iwo Jima, and it's an actual bamboo container, and on the end of it here is the actual rice that they ate. From a nurse's uniform from World War II, which is obviously very, very important to all the people that served in World War II. The nurses did one heck of a job and probably really don't receive the credit that they really should. This room is all about World War I, and we also have a display case that features some items from the Civil War. This basically came from one soldier in World War I. His name was Corporal O'Brien. And what you see in this case here is all his personal effects.
Continuing on our tour of the museum, across the hall is our current conflict room. We've labeled Iraq. It will be eventually totally committed to Iraq and Afghanistan. The uniform right next to it is particularly interesting for us in Broomfield. It's the BDU uniform of Captain Russell Ripetoe. Captain Ripetoe graduated from Broomfield High School and was with 3rd Battalion 75th Rangers in Iraq, and unfortunately was killed by a suicide woman bomber in April of 2003. Our next room down the corridor is focused on our experience in the Korean War. In several of our rooms we even include a DVD which has, in this case, Korea the Forgotten War, which gives an excellent summary, so as people go through and look at the memorabilia, they can get a better idea of how this connected with the lives of soldiers.
Went all the way down there, and then we bugged out. We came down to Kununri, then we took the boat, ship, and we came all the way down to Pusan. And General Walker said, it's as far as we go, we won't retreat anymore. We stand here and die.
This room chronicles more of what my experience was in the Army. This is the Vietnam era. This area is interesting for our young students who come in because it's a hands-on area where they can actually remove and try on the flak vests that our soldiers have worn. This was more of an example of the helmet and the flak vest that our soldiers wore in Vietnam era. It was constructed of Kevlar and could protect you against small arms fire and shrapnel. In contrast, now in Iraq, the small arms fire and IED explosives are much more penetrating, and the Kevlar has now been replaced with ceramic plates, which make the vest tremendously heavy. Our last room we keep dedicated to special exhibits. So this is a room which we'll try and rotate fairly frequently. And our first exhibit is on the Tuskegee Airmen story. And we were very fortunate of getting this particular exhibit on loan from the Aurora History Museum. And as you can see, it's a series of poster displays which basically gives the history of the Tuskegee Airmen and their amazing accomplishments during World War II.
I think it offers the community an opportunity to educate themselves and become informed of all of the battles, wars.
I feel so full of pride because this is something that will outlast all of us. And it filled a need, and we are the only standing Veterans Museum in the state.
It's taken a lot of young men and women, dedication, and in some cases their lives, to preserve the freedoms that we enjoy in this country. And in this museum are artifacts and memorabilia that they can see and be informed about individuals who served our country to keep us free in these various battles.